Welcome to the Preserving Family Podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to equip you to gain insight, information, and inspiration to help you protect, teach, and guide your family during these turbulent times. Our goal is to provide tools and resources to help you strengthen and preserve your own marriages and families. Now here are your hosts, Dr. Mark and Janie Ogletree.
Well, thank you for joining us today. We're always grateful that we know that people are out there listening, and just a reminder, we'll just keep kind of talking about this because every week we have people showing interest, but we will have that church history trip next year, summer of 2025. It'll be the first week of August. We'll start in Philadelphia. We'll end in Palmyra. And actually, we're going to end in Kirtland, Ohio, but every single temple along the way, we're going to go in and do sessions, which I think makes this trip very unique.
Yeah, it's going to be super fun. This is also a great trip to bring some of your older children on, or your YSA children, or single children, or even married couples, or grandparents. This is going to be great. If you want to come, bring a bunch of your family. We're going to be studying Doctrine and Covenants next year, so this is going to be great. You'll get to be right there in the thick of it, seeing where all this happened, the things that we're learning about, and
right.
It's so fun. It's going to be awesome. We always make just such great friends, eternal friends on these trips, and they're just never to be forgotten. So come join us.
Right. We hope you do. And so if you're interested, just email us at preservingfamiliespodcast@gmail.com. That's Preserving Families Podcast. Well, Janie, I think you should introduce our topic today because this is one of your areas of expertise, I think.
I don't know if it's my area of expertise, but I just was thinking this week as all of our grandkids are heading back to school, and of course, because they live all over the place, everybody's starting at different dates, and we're within a few days, and some started this week, some start next week, but you know, listening to all their excitement about getting their new backpacks and their school shopping and
school shoes.
Yeah, their new shoes. That's what they're always excited about, their new school shoes. It just got me thinking about this time of year and why I love fall anyway, but I think going back to school is part of it. I think the whole thing is buying school supplies and...
Should we tell everyone that you actually bought school supplies for yourself
this
year? That's how excited you are for this.
The other day I walked into Target and all their school supplies were there, and I just had to buy some because I'm just sad we don't have anyone this year to buy school supplies for. But they were such a good deal, I had to just go buy some, and it just made me happy. I don't know why.
Yeah, well,
probably from doing it for so many years.
Right.
But this time of year is just so fun and exciting, and it's also a sad time. I remember the feelings of being so excited that, you know, I can get the house put back together. We can get back on a schedule. We can get back in our routine, you know.
Well, I think it's like seasons, right? We like these seasons because we're all so looking forward to the summer when it happens, right? Because we want to get off the merry-go-round. It's been such a crazy winter and fall and winter, right, with school and spring.
And I was always so excited to have the kids back home, you know, that we now could have lots of family time and do fun things.
And just get off the merry-go-round a little bit.
But I'm always, excited for fall to start again, you know, for the kids' full school
now we
to start.
Crave the structure and
to send them back. But then I was always so sad, too, to send them back because I loved having them at home. I loved watching them play together and just imagine and build and hang out and all the fun things that we had done, the memories we'd made over the summer, that it was always sad, too, to send them back.
Just all the family trips, the family time, yeah.
I remember the day that our youngest, our 8th child, went to full-day kindergarten. And I thought, I'd been living for that day for like 25 years, right?
Right, because when she went into kindergarten, we had kids that were probably here at BYU, right?
And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be the best day. I'm going to go home. I'm going to literally have a quiet home. I'm going to lay on the floor and just do snow angels in the carpet or whatever. And I remember coming home and sobbing, just being so devastated that year of my life was over because it happened in the blink of an eye.
Right.
And now I'm watching my daughters go through the same thing as they send their kids off. Every year, they were posting pictures this morning, and I just got a lump in my throat. These kids are growing up so fast, and the girls were all lamenting about like, how did they get so old so fast? And I'm like, oh, guys, if you only knew, like, don't blink because it happens that fast.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to commiserate with all of the moms and grandmas out there as we were watching our kids start back to school. And even some of our college kids are leaving, right? And maybe going across country to a college. I mean, it's just a weird season.
Or they're graduating from college and now they're leaving.
Or taking
and going
jobs.
to different parts of the world. And
It's kind of a time of change, and it's just makes me feel older every year. It makes me feel like, oh boy, what time is just passing by so quickly. So we just want to enjoy every moment, right?
So maybe there's two ends of this spectrum, right? Maybe we can entertain our listeners just for a second with one favorite commercial that often airs this time of year that some of you may be able to relate to. Some of you can't, but let's see.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's that time of year again. They're going back. It's back to school time at Staples. Over 7,000 supplies and guaranteed low prices. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Now, we know you can't see that, but you have seen it before. And you remember that it's the two sad kids, the son and the daughter, that just have that look on their face like, oh my gosh.
Like, shoot me now.
Right.
And the dad's skipping through the aisles.
Dad's skipping through the aisles, riding the cart, singing it's the most wonderful time of the year. And there are many of us who do kind of feel that way. Like, okay, it's been a great summer, but all the unstructure, all the things that kind of fall off, for those of us like myself that are more structured and like having certain times of the day where we eat and have prayer and read scriptures, and it's like, okay, we're kind of ready for the fall. Let's get back into gear here. But then others, Janie, I think the other extreme would probably be that great story that you love, and I love it too, from Sister Hinckley. Maybe some of you can relate to this better.
Yes, Sister Hinckley said she loved the sound of the screen door slamming shut as children ran in and out from the backyard. Marjorie savored the days she had her 5 all to herself, and she went to great lengths to keep summers unstructured so her young ones would have time to lie in the gully and listen to the birds sing if they wanted to. She wept each fall when it was time to send her brood back to school. Even when school was in session, she looked forward to the moment each day when her children burst through the door and started scrounging for an afternoon snack. One day when Dick had to stay after school for some grade school discipline, Marjorie marched up to his classroom and announced to his startled teacher, "You can do anything you want with this boy all day long, but after 3, he's mine," and marched off with him.
Yeah, you can just imagine Sister Hinckley saying that, right?
Such a cutie mom. And I think all of us as moms can relate to both of those, right? We probably lie somewhere in the middle. We are so excited that they're going to go back and maybe we have structure and have some peace and get our house clean again. And I know after summer, it would take me like a week just to dig out and put everything back where it goes, and just to kind of recoup from the summer and having all the kids home. But we're sad too. We love that time, and we are sad that they are now going back to other influences and being influenced by their teacher all day and not us, being surrounded by maybe outside influences of other children. So I think all of us moms can relate to probably both of those.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure dads can relate to that too, right? Where we do miss that time of you come home and your kids are home and they want to hang out with you, and now they're going to be gone. So one of the things I really like about this time of year, and Janie, I guess it's because my whole career has been an academic one, right? I mean, the academic calendar has kind of been our calendar for our family,
Right, because you go back with the kids. You start teaching. You get the teacher side, but
right. And so
our whole life is an academic calendar.
Yeah, it is. We have the fall right now. You and I are going into the fall semester, right, at BYU, so to speak, with our family. But for me, it's always been a time of resolution. I mean, we talk about January the 1st, as New Year's resolutions, but I really do think that late August, early September, that's also a time of resolution where we have kind of probably let things go a little bit. We're not as structured. We're waking up later. Our kids are waking up later during the summertime. Right?
Oh yeah. I remember when we had our 8 kids at home every summer, we'd be like, okay, we are going to get on a schedule. We're not going to sleep till noon every day. We're going to go to bed early. And by the end of
by week 2?
Yeah, by mid-June, we were like sleeping until 10 and going to bed at midnight. And it just happens. It's just part of summer.
Scripture study.
It doesn't get dark for so late. So then everyone's out,
Yeah.
and it just happens. But fall is a good time let's get back on the wagon. Let's get some structure back. Let's, set goals again. It is a good time to just refresh.
Yeah, it is.
Mark, that reminds me of a story that I just heard this week on a book I was listening to on Audible.
Yeah.
And I just thought it fit so perfectly here. But it was a story about Coach Darrell Royal, who you can tell me a little bit more about.
I just remember as a kid growing up in Texas, it was Darrell Royal. He was the head coach of the University of Texas, a great coach, well respected. I think a man with strong values and convictions. And yeah, I grew up with his name on TV every night. So
yeah,
I know he's a great guy.
I had to come tell you the story and ask you about it, and you totally knew who he was. And I'm sorry, I'm not that big of a football fan, not fan, but knowledgeable in football. But so this is a really cool story. But he was just an amazing coach, and sounds like an amazing man. And he was very tuned in to his players and people around him. Everyone loved him that knew him, apparently.
Right.
And one night he was at a party and ran into one of his friends who was a famous entertainer.
Okay.
And as he talked to this man, he could tell that he was high, that he was
on drugs.
Right? Wasn't himself. And at the very end of the conversation, he put his hand on this man's shoulder and said, "Hey, bud, you've got some white powder on your nose. You might want to go wipe that off." And as this man ran to the bathroom, looked in the mirror, and realized he had
basically cocaine
on his nose. Yeah. Sorry, this is a really bad story, but I promise it gets better. He sunk to an all-new low and realized that his drug addiction had really gotten out of control, that he was to the point now he didn't even bother to try to hide it. And went home and just really did some soul searching. And so the story goes on that the next morning, Darrell Royal, this coach, got a knock on his front door. And this friend of his, the entertainer, came to his door and said, "Can I talk to you?" And he said, "Of course, come on in." And he just let this man kind of confess all of his sins, the road he's gone down, and where he was at now. And Darrell Royal just listened to him. And this man just kind of vented to him. And all Darrell Royal, he must have been a man of few words, I don't know, but he said, he looked at this man and he said, "I have never had any trouble turning the page in the book of my life." And this man really thought about that and immediately never did drugs again, got himself clean and sober, and changed his life because of this man.
Yeah.
And as I thought about that, I thought, what a great analogy that we are the author in the book of our life, and we can turn the page anytime. Mm-hmm. We can stop and start over and have a clean, fresh page. And of course, that's, we call that repentance in the church, and how blessed we are that we have the knowledge of repentance, that we can, through the atonement of Jesus Christ, that we can change anything.
Right. That
we can change bad habits, that we can start new good habits, that we can do anything, and that we can turn the page and change anything that we can act and not be acted upon.
Yeah.
And anyway, I thought that was just a great story, and that analogy really stuck out to me, that the whole visual, I'm a visual person, but the whole picture, the whole visual of just turning the page and having a fresh, clean, new spiral notebook, for back to school. If we had to tie that analogy in.
Right.
And you can write your own script and we can change. And anyway, I thought that was great. So as we're looking towards this new fall and school year, as you just mentioned, it's kind of a time to rewrite our story, rewrite our goals, get back on track.
Have some dreams, have some objectives we're trying to accomplish. We want to improve, right? I mean, that's kind of the idea is we want to help one of the things you and I have talked about is we want to help our children and grandchildren improve. We want to help them to become successful, right? And so what are the things that we can do? How can we bless them in their lives so that they can become great and successful at what they care about? What's important to them?
Yeah. And we kind of just brainstormed this time of year, just some things that we can do as families, that we can do as parents to help teach some principles to our children at this time of the year, to help set them up for success in school. things like this that maybe that we did some of this, that some of these are ideas that we've heard from other people.
Right.
That I wish we could go back and do, because I think some of these ideas are so fun. But we're just got thinking about this time of year, got really sentimental as we're watching our grandkids all go off, and can't wait to hear the report tonight about how they liked their first day of school. But we just thought we'd take this time to really, as parents, maybe, just think about some things that we can implement. And I know, some people already do, but we just thought we'd add to it.
Mm-hmm. So, Janie, I would say one of the first principles is just helping our children understand how important education actually is, and how we belong to a church that emphasizes that. I mean, I don't want to say it's part of our theology, but it's certainly part of the principle. It's the idea of learning that the glory of God is intelligence, that we're here to progress and grow. That all
kind of is part of our theology, I guess.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to say it as a foundational doctrinal principle to go to school, but certainly learning and education is. And here's 3 short statements from church I'll say members of the First Presidency, but President Hinckley said that plan now for all the education you can get, and then work to bring to pass a fulfillment of that plan. And then our prophet, President Nelson, said this. He said, because of our sacred regard for each human intellect, we consider the obtaining of an education to be a religious responsibility.
Wow.
And that's pretty cool. And then, look at President Udorf. He said, for members of the church, education is not merely a good idea, it's a commandment, he said. And so we value education. We value the idea of learning, of growing, of progressing, but also of being able to go into other places of the world and to help them become educated. And that we know that if we are educated, that we really can make a difference in the world.
I've been so impressed on what the church has done with this whole Pathways.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's literally providing opportunities for people to get a college education or get certified in certain areas that never would have had the opportunity, could never have afforded it, could never have dreamed of it. So the church really is serious about education.
I think the Pathway program is one of the miracles of our era, and we just don't talk about it that much. But to take that program to the world and to bless people everywhere, knowing that
the entire
education
world,
opens doors and opportunities. And once again, not that you're going to sit down with your children and read these quotes, but we want them to know that education is a big deal, and it does open doors and provide opportunities. And if they want to end up in life in a place where they can be successful and take care of their own families, but also help those around them, that this is the gateway to that.
And I think it's so important that our children know that that's how we feel about education. And not every child is going to be a rocket scientist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we knew we had 8 children, and we knew which ones were very gifted intellectually and, academically. And we knew others, they did fine, but we knew
they may not go to med school.
Right.
and neither did we, right?
Right. And so we felt like as long as they are doing the best for what abilities that they had, and we would push those that were being lazy. Like we would try to push, but then there was other kids that we knew that they were doing the very best that they could. And so whatever that ability is, our kids need to know that they need to strive, that we expect that, that again, authoritative parenting is the high expectations with the high warmth and love. And they need to know that that's an expectation in our home, that they are going to go do their best in school. They're going to be on top of their assignments. That's their responsibility. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I think that is that our children need to understand the importance of education.
Yeah, I do too.
Principle number 2 we kind of came up with is make special things special.
Yeah.
And going back to school is a kind of a big deal.
It's kind of a big deal.
So let's make it special. Let's come up with fun traditions. And I know a lot of families already do. But if you don't, and your kids are just starting out, or it's never too late, and even if you don't, it's fun to implement, these new traditions. So I know a lot of families will have a special meal, a special breakfast that morning, or they'll have a special
on the first day of school. You're talking about, right?
I know for us, we always went to dinner the first night of school.
Right.
So when they all came home, it was a fun time to sit around and have them all tell us about their teachers, their classes, what friends are in their classes, those kind of things.
And we'd head off to Chili's. Yeah.
But a cool thing that I've heard recently, and again, this is one of those I wish I could go back and do with our kids, but a lot of families do this back to school dinner. It's a special dinner where they choose a theme for the year. And so and these are just some examples that I've seen that I think they're so cool, is the theme, I can do hard things, or choose good friends, or the places you'll go.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll do think celestial. I saw one that was a M&M theme, and it said make the most of your year, and then they had make the most of your talents, make the most of your friends, make the most of your sports or academic. It was really cute.
Right.
A friend of mine from Texas, she just did one that was based on Elder Gong's talk, Campfire of Faith. And it was really cute. She decorated all like campfire and quotes about having an adventure this year and trail mix, and they made s'mores and made it a kind of a really special thing. There's really great. I mean, you could have a theme of think celestial. Like the sky's the limit.
Right.
And you could think about maybe what your family needs or what your kids need, or rise up and shine, or choose good friends. Whatever you choose for this year, I've seen people choose this theme and they decorate the table like it. They print out a big sign, they hang it on the wall, and that's there all year. So they talk about it as a family. They talk about how they're doing.
Hopefully it's repeated, and they're going back to visit it after they've introduced it, because that's always the challenge, is to introduce something exciting like that and then never say a word about it again. Right?
Yeah, but I've seen moms make little things that they can hang on their backpack, or little bookmarks, or things that through the year while they're at school they can remember the theme. And I just think that's so special. And then they tie it in with some other cute ideas. Like I've seen where moms will go out with sidewalk chalk and write big messages on the sidewalk.
You mean like on their way to school?
On their way to the bus, or on their way walking and wishing them luck, or on the way home that day, is like, welcome home from your first day, things like that. People are so creative, and these are just ideas. And again, if this speaks to you, that's great. Not every mom,
this is not going to be their area.
Not your area for every mom, but there's some other cute ones. I saw some ideas that parents, that's when they measure everyone. You know how everyone has that stick or the part of the door where they measure everyone's height.
So this would be the time of year when you do that, right? When you're going into first grade or
mark it first grade, fifth grade, third grade,
11th grade,
12th grade.
Right.
I love that. I love how everyone has the little sign with their kids' pictures marking the day and the and the year and the name of their teacher, and it's just so cute. It documents that. But whatever you do, make that day special. Whatever your family decides to do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of you have your own traditions, but these were just a few that I've seen lately. So again, make special things special.
Yeah. Well, Janie, I think principle number 3, I'm going to say, is just now it's time to kind of reestablish some routines, or establish routines if you've never done that before. And this is where we can help as parents decide, okay, this is going to be our bedtime now, right? We got to reel that in from the summer and tighten that up a little bit.
That might take a few days.
Yeah, it's gonna. Remember how tired our kids were at the
it's hard for
first
parents.
Week of school, as they were kind of adjusting to this new schedule, but also what time they're going to wake up, and what time we're going to have our family scripture study, and all those type of things, that we need to kind of figure out in terms of what time is this, and who has practice on this day. It's kind of we're kind of building the calendar.
Oh boy, time to get our big huge calendars out, right?
Yeah, that was the other thing, is all right, here comes the big calendar,
all the games and concerts and assignments and
right. And so we need to do all that. I still remember, Janie, when it came to practicing a routine. Now our oldest children, who are in their late 30s now, it was a long time ago when they were in kindergarten, first grade. So I recognize what I'm about to say, the world's probably changed a little bit, but they really wanted to, with the other kids in the neighborhood, ride their bikes to school. And we lived in Mesa, Arizona at the time, and that was just kind of what the kids did. And so I remember with you riding our bikes with them the week before school started, so we made sure they knew exactly where to go.
How to stop at the corners.
It was a mile away, if I remember right. At least it felt like it was a mile away. Maybe it was shorter. Maybe it was half a mile, but still, they were just 5 and 6 years old. But they rode those bikes to school. We had to show them where to park, where their classroom was, and they just knew right where to go. It made it seamless, right, once that started. So I think it's just a good thing to get ahead of that, and let's start establishing these routines not the day that school starts. We probably need to transition into that last week of the summer. I know that sounds such a bummer to whoever, if there's any kids listening out there.
Well, we also know that kids like routines,
Yeah.
and that's how they really thrive, when they know what's going to happen and what's coming, and they know that every Monday we have this, every night at 6 p.m. we're having scripture study and dinner, whatever your routine is.
Right.
Kids really need to know and not just
make them
live
aware.
in chaos. Yeah. So it's good for all of us.
Okay, the next principle, another great principle we think. This is a great time to set goals for this academic year, right? What do you want to accomplish? Once again, Janie, like we talked about a minute ago, well, I'll just give a metaphor since it's going to be football. It's football season now, right? But what a good coach does is they put their player, this is football, in a position to be successful. That's the whole idea of coaching at the college level is we're going to put you in the right spot so you can do what you do, right? Well, that's what we want to do as parents too, right? We want to find a way to put our children in the right spots where they can be successful. And so to sit down and at the end of August or September and say to a third grader or a ninth grader or a senior, what do you want to accomplish this year? What are some of your goals? How do you want to improve? Like we talked about before, a bucket list of some kind could be cool too. What do you want to, I rember with our oldest daughter doing that, of Brittany. What do you want to do? You're only going to be with us for like 10 more months of your life and then you're gone. What are some things that you want to do? What can we do as a family? A vision board would be a cool family home evening activity, right? Of kind of establishing what you want to do, what you want to work on and improve on this year. So this is, once again, back to it's New Year's Day in a sense, when September the 1st rolls around of, hey, let's work on some of these goals.
Yeah, and I think that would be such a cool opportunity for parents to sit down with each of their children and do that and make it really positive.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to learn your times tables this year? Okay, let's do it. Or you want to read your first full book, or depending on the age, or you want to make the cross country team, or whatever that child is interested in. Is let's set some goals and help them get there and see what's really in their heart. Like, what are they thinking about? What do they want to do to improve?
And I think as a family, we can try every month to kind of have some cool, fun thing we're going to do, so they know that, okay, the summer didn't just end all of that, guys. We're still going to do this in September. We've got this in October. Anyway, it's kind of fun to have some of those activities planned as well.
And that really does go right along with the children and youth program of the church, which they need to be setting goals anyway. But what a great opportunity and time for us to sit down individually with each of them and really help get that on the wall, and then not just tuck it away, like type them up and put them on their wall so they can see that, or on a mirror or somewhere where they can see that.
And if
we can see it, where we can help them. And at night, as we're tucking them in, say, oh, hey, how's that going? Or, how's your times tables coming? Maybe we need to drill those tomorrow, or
yeah, I think that's
whatever.
great. And then when we have parent-child interviews, it's another time to bring that out and review it.
Perfect.
So principle number 5, what a great opportunity it is when our children are going now back to school to teach them the principles of self-management, self-discipline. I think, Janie, you and I have been very surprised as we've met families over the years, finding out that there are parents out there who are waking up their juniors and seniors in high school because they don't wake up on their own. They have to wake them up, and the parents have complained to us about that. But we're like, well, I think you can change that pretty easily. At that age, in our mind anyway, in our opinion, they should be waking themselves up. In fact, maybe even a lot earlier than junior and senior in high school, right? A lot earlier.
I think elementary school, they can have an alarm clock, and they wake up to it.
Yeah. So
and then you're not dealing with that, having to pull a 16-year-old out of bed.
Right. That's not the job of a parent to have to do that. And so I think, Janie, this idea of really teaching them, once again, the reason why self-regulation or regulation is so important is so that they'll learn to self-regulate, right? That's what the research tells us, is they're not going to learn that unless they've been regulated a little bit. But once they've been regulated, let's turn them loose and let them have some responsibility.
And I think school, the time heading back to school, is a great time because they're going to be responsible for homework, for the things that they're involved in this time of year. So let's
activities, extracurricular activities, and
so let's do that. So definitely the first thing is have your kids get up on their own.
Right.
Whether you set an alarm clock, whether they set an
you have a
alarm
rooster
on their
in your
phone,
backyard?
whatever it is. But I think that can happen at a really early age, like early elementary school. They can have a little alarm clock in their room.
Yeah.
Another thing too is they need to make their own lunches. I think,
Or
or at least help with it. I remember
yeah.
we would have a whole assembly line every night after dinner while we were cleaning up dinner, putting leftovers away. We would just start the lunch process. We would have everybody's lunch boxes or bags out, and we would start. One person was bagging up all the grapes. One person was bagging chips. One person was bagging cookies. One person was making sandwiches, and everybody was a part of that. And then that way they can't complain what was in their lunch because they're helping make it.
They made it. Yeah, I like that.
But another thing is having them be responsible for setting out their clothes the night before so that mornings are not insane. But teaching them skills like this that sound very basic, but teaching them skills help them learn self-discipline, responsibility, independence, and teaching them how to setting them up for success so that the morning of school, they're not scrambling trying to find their shoes and their socks and where's their backpack and where's their homework. But if at night we take the time to set out their clothes, set out their backpack, make sure all their papers that are signed in their backpack, everything's ready to go, then it makes mornings very pleasant.
And once again, I know some of you are listening to this thinking, are you guys really talking about this? And the answer is yes. I mean, in my counseling practice and other places, we're learning that there are parents that are in arguments with their 16 and 17-year-old high school children because the kid, they can't find their shoe or they don't know where their homework is and every morning is just like this fiasco where it doesn't have to be that way. And I was telling you, I was so OCD, and I think I still am, but I literally would lay my clothes out. Now, this was more probably in elementary school, but I would lay them out in the shape of my body on the ground next to my bed, almost as if I'd roll out of bed rolling into the clothes or whatever. But I kind of, you kind of went to bed knowing, okay, I'm already kind of set for tomorrow,
Right. And again, we say this all the time, but don't do anything for your kids that they can do for themselves.
Right.
So if they are capable of making their lunch, then they make their lunch. If they can get up and make breakfast, and I know we as moms want them to eat a healthy breakfast, so maybe I know I made breakfast every morning, but they can help. They can help scramble the eggs or put the bacon on the thing or make some oatmeal, right? But
what I see happening is a lot of these young, either youth, teenagers, whatever, but they're literally waking up 10 minutes before their class starts, and it's just talk about a horrible way to start the day. You're literally just racing out the door and putting your clothes on as you're driving down the street, right? And we're trying to just teach them some great self-management practices here.
And I know for us, as we taught our children these things very at a young age, and again, in kindergarten, first grade, you're very much hands-on helping them.
Right.
But as they get older, each year becomes better and they're more capable. So by high school, we didn't have to wake our kids up. I didn't have to say, do you have your homework? Do you have your backpack? Do you have your volleyball bag? Do you have your cleats? Do you have your snack? Do you have your football equipment? I didn't have to ask them that. They knew what the drill was. And so it does start off when they're young. And we have to maybe say, okay, do you have your backpack? But then I loved it because with 8 children, there's no way we could have helicoptered them. Yeah. There's no way I could have been with every child, going over the list. And so I was grateful that we started at a very young age, teaching them responsibility, independence, self-discipline, they take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And I love that. Children this age also can help with dinner time. They can learn how to make meals. They can help with, definitely need chores. We've talked about this, but they need chores and, all those things that come along with back to school time.
When you said helping with dinner, I just had a flashback of those days our kids were in school, and back in McKinney, Texas, there was a place called Jason's Deli. You remember that? And they made a huge marketing mistake. They said kids eat for free every Wednesday night. Remember that?
Yeah, kids under 12 eat for free.
And so every LDS family in the area headed to Jason's Deli. And I think we all put them out of business. Literally, they quit that policy
after a couple years.
Yeah,
it was like LDS night at Jason's
your
Deli.
whole steak was at Jason's Deli that night. But so much for making lunches. But anyway.
No, so back again, anything that you can do to teach your kids to be independent, to be self-disciplined, to do anything on their own. And it's a lot of work. It's not, parenting is not for the faint of heart. Parenting is not for lazy people. You have to be up teaching, helping, motivating until they get to that point where then they can do it on their own. But that's the goal. That's what we're doing. We're trying to raise responsible adults. People that can go into society and be functioning and live a happy life and live on their own and not...
Well, to equip them to be successful. I mean, once again, that's what we're trying to do.
The last and final principle that we kind of came up with is how important it is to receive and to give Father's blessings to each of our children. And to me, every year, hon, you would give me a blessing too, as the mom managing this huge brood. And I was so grateful for that because I felt like they were going back to school and I was going along with them. And so I was appreciative.
Strength, sure.
I was appreciative of that. But I think it's such an important time that that we as parents see what the Lord feels about each of our children and about what blessings and things that they're in need of. And I think it's so important for them to feel that love from Heavenly Father, from their parents. It make it a really special, sacred time in the family. And I think that's just so powerful. And I would never want to send my kids off to school without a back to school blessing for the year and, prayer and scripture study every day. I think that's the armor that they need.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, Janie. And for us, it was, back to making special things special. But that was always a special, usually it was a Sunday afternoon, evening. And I remember too, some experiences of laying my hands on the heads of one of our kids and thinking, oh man, this kid has given us a run for our money, or boy, this has been such a challenging year with them. And then you put your hands on their head and immediately you start to feel this greatness kind of seep through that. And you realize, wow, these are Heavenly Father's children and they have such great potential and we want to help them reach that. And so in our family, one of the traditions was not just the blessing, but I always loved this. I don't even know how it got started, but after you were blessed, you went around and hugged everyone in the family. And it was just a great bonding time. And I still remember, I would say that was one of probably the more sacred times for me as a dad to do that. And it was, to bless 8 children, at a given time, that took some energy and.
Well, I remember a couple times we split it up. Because it was so overwhelming for you.
Yeah, well,
that you were just
that would have taken like 2 hours.
Well, I think we would do like the little guys, maybe on one day, and then the next night we would put them in bed, and then
when they got older,
and then we would just do the older kids or something and have more of a spiritual moment.
Yeah.
When the little guys were in bed, but. That was a lot too. And then that was 9 blessings you had to get. Right.
I was limp and pale after that. So we've even had the opportunity to bless some of our grandkids, which has been really cool. We can't emphasize enough how crucial it is to use the priesthood power to bless our families. Now, as I say this, I recognize that there are many out there who may be listening who may not be in a position to either give those blessings or to have someone give them to you or your children. And that's when this ministering program, other relatives, family members could come in and really help. No one ever should go out without a blessing in this church. And I can look back and say that some of the most sacred times I think I've ever had as a father have been those experiences. And I remember even just recently, just this summer, giving a couple of our daughters blessings as they were here visiting from out of state. And one daughter said, "Wait, Dad, are you giving blessings tonight? I'm in line." And it's still a practice for them, even though they're in their 30s now and have children of their own. And so let me share with you. Let's close, Janie. Let's close here with a story that's had a huge impact on me. It was given quite a few years ago. It was when Elder Merrill J. Bateman was the president of BYU. And he shared this story that I think is great. He said, "In closing, may I share one of the family practices that has helped produce joy and memories in our family. It's a tradition that has tied us together as a nuclear and an extended family," he said. "When our oldest children were ready to begin formal schooling, Sister Bateman and I decided that a father's blessing would be given to each child and to the mother at the beginning of the school year. The family home evening preceding the start of the school would be the occasion. We began the practice when Michael, our oldest son, turned 5 and was about to enter kindergarten. The practice continues to this day, although there is only one son at home, and he's a student at BYU. When all the children were home, 8 blessings were given on that special Monday evening. The year that Michael was about to enter the 3rd grade holds a special memory for us. During the summer, he had participated in Little League Baseball. He was a backup catcher and an outfielder on his team, and for his age, he had some athletic ability and was a good player. At the time, he loved baseball, and when we gathered together for family home evening just before the start of school, Michael announced to the family that he was too old for a father's blessing. Remember, he was in 3rd grade. After all, he had completed his first season in Little League, he had played well, and blessings were for younger children. Marilyn and I were stunned at first. We encouraged him by suggesting that a blessing would help him with his schoolwork. It would provide him with protection. It would help him in his relationships with his brothers, sisters, and parents and friends. But our encouragement, along with considerable coaxing and cajoling, failed. He was too old. Since Marilyn and I believe in agency, we were not about to force a blessing on an 8-year-old. Of all the children that year, all the children except for Michael received a blessing that year. Well, the school year proceeded normally. Michael and the other children did well, and the family enjoyed their associations together. And as the following May arrived, it was time for Little League Baseball to begin. Following the last day of school, Michael's coach called a team practice. Michael's anticipation could not have been greater. His dream was about to be realized. He was going to be the starting catcher. The baseball diamond was located in the river bottoms not far from the mouth of Provo Canyon and a few blocks from our home. The boys and the coach walked to the field. Following the practice, the boys and the coach started for home. Michael and a friend decided to run on ahead of the coach and the other boys. In the process, they had to cross University Avenue, not far from the mouth of the canyon. As they approached the highway, Michael's friend looked each way and noticed a car coming from the north. Michael failed to look and darted onto the highway just as a 16-year-old boy, out for his first drive in his brother's car, came speeding out of the canyon. Now I'm going to take a time out here just for a second. But some of you know Jack Christensen. And Jack Christensen, one of the great teachers and speakers in the church, was that 16-year-old boy, and his version of this story is also very remarkable if you ever get a hold of that. Now back to the story. I can't imagine the fear that must have struck the young driver's heart as he saw the small boy in front of him. The driver slammed on the brakes and swerved in an attempt to miss the boy. The side of the front fender and grill hit Michael and threw him down the highway, where he landed in a heap of broken bones. Sister Bateman and I were visiting parents in American Fork when the police reached us by telephone with the news. We were told that Michael was in an ambulance on his way to the hospital and that he was in critical condition. Before leaving American Fork, I called a friend and asked him to meet us at the hospital to assist in giving Michael a blessing. The drive from American Fork to Provo was the longest 20 minutes of our lives. During the drive, Marilyn and I prayed fervently, asking the Lord to preserve the life of our son and bless me with an understanding of the Lord's will for him. In those 20 minutes, we learned what it means to pray with real intent. As we parked the car by the door of the emergency room, we saw the police and a young man leaving the hospital. He was crying. The police recognized us and introduced us to the young man as the driver of the car. We put our arms around him and told him that we knew it was not his fault. We then entered the hospital to find Michael. We found him in a room with doctors and nurses feverishly attending to his needs. He had received a concussion and was irrational and crying for his mother. His scalp was laid back on his head and the broken bones were obvious. My friend had arrived and we asked if we could have 2 or 3 minutes with him alone before they took him to the operating room. They agreed. Again, I prayed with all the fervency of my being that his life would be preserved and that the blessing would reflect the Lord's will. My friend anointed and I sealed. As I laid my hands upon his head, a feeling of comfort and peace came over me. Words flowed and promises were made. For the next 4 weeks, Michael lay in a hospital bed with his head bandaged, his arm in a cast, and his leg in traction. Each Wednesday evening following the Little League game, his teammates would file into the hospital room and give Michael a rundown. Each week, tears would well up in Michael's eyes and run down his cheeks as he saw his teammates enter the room and heard the boys relive the game. He would have given anything to be able to participate. After 4 weeks, Michael was put in a body cast that went from his chest to his toes. On 2 or 3 occasions, we took him to a game to watch his friends play. Another 4 weeks passed, and the body cast was replaced with a cast from his hip to his toes. 2 days before school was to begin, the cast was removed, and Michael began the long process of exercising his leg to obtain full use again. By the way, could you imagine as a young boy being in a cast like that the entire summer? As the family gathered the next night for school blessings, is there any wonder as to who wanted the first blessing? A 9-year-old boy, a little older and a lot wiser, was first in line. Michael is not the only member of our family to learn from the experience. All of the other children have talked about the protection that may come through a father's blessing. Over the years, they have come to understand that accidents are not always prevented by priesthood blessings, but they have also learned that more than one type of protection is available through the priesthood. Today, our grandchildren are recipients of priesthood blessings. The tradition is in its 2nd generation. We hope this practice, like the family, will prevail through the eternities. Now, that's a wonderful story from Elder Bateman's talk years ago on the eternal family, a BYU speech. For us, once again, that practice of blessings before the school year may be the most important tradition of all. And I'm so grateful for those experiences that we've had with our own children in this area. Well, everyone, it's been great being with you today. And we love to end our podcast as we usually do with LDS, is Let's Do Something. And the invitation that we share today is to think of one tradition, one way to make special things special, one thing that you could do as you and your family enter this new school year that would just make things better, that would maybe even make things more fun, more exciting. What's the tradition that you could introduce now that would bless your family? And we invite you to get that inspiration and to move forward and do it. Well, everyone, once again, thank you for being with us. Please feel free to share this podcast with anyone that could benefit by it. Please feel free to share the like button. We learned that helps. And we look forward to being with you again next time. So we hope that you have a wonderful, awesome, incredible week, especially for those who are now starting school.